Hi, guys, and welcome to Reading with Rachel. And we're going to be exploring Chapter 2 in English, of course, right now for me, of the Salon Des Femmes book by Gary Douglas. Chapter 2, Choosing to Alter Reality. What if you're capable of altering reality and you're not choosing that? Gary, hello, ladies. Just as a little side note, remember this is a series of conversations. So this was taken from a teleclass that was done with Gary and some really amazing women that stepped up and asked amazing questions to change reality several years ago. And then it was put together into this really life-changing book, and I love it. And I hope you will too. So here we go, Chapter 2. Gary, hello, ladies. Now, the topic is soulmates and twin flames. Dane and I did a show on the Puja Radio Network today about soulmates and twin flames, which is very funny because the metaphysical community considers soulmates and twin flames to be the proper thing to happen in this reality. The amount of charge on them was freaking unbelievable. I'm going to use the processes we used on the show today with you guys because I think they're going to help you all. What stupidity are you using to create the twin flame, soulmate, significant other, mythical creature, prince or princess, perfect person for you, and perfect complement for you are you choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Apparently, when you were kids, some of you read way too many stories about Cinderella, Rapunzel, and all those creatures you were supposed to become, but you never could become because you weren't as repulsive as any of those creatures were. What stupidity are you using to create the twin flame, soulmate, significant other, mythical creature, prince or princess, perfect person for you, and perfect complement for you are you choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Now, this is the idea that the purpose of relationship is finding the perfect one for you. Would an infinite being truly have a perfect complement, or would an infinite being have multiples of those? How many of you have had multiples who you keep trying to find the perfect one of? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. In reality, you're looking for the perfect one who doesn't exist. Would that require you to judge you or to choose you? Salon participant. Judge. Gary. So everywhere you've judged you for not finding the perfect one for you, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Live from loving, not love. In the conversation Dane and I had on the show today, I realized that the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is judgment. Love does not require hate as its opposition. It requires judgment as an oppositional point of view. The oppositional forces in life are love and judgment, caring and hate, and stupidity and receiving. Those three oppositional forces create confusion and do not allow you to choose something that works for you. Salon participant. When you say love and judgment are oppositional forces, are you saying that because I have love in my life, I have judgment? Could you explain this? Gary, loving, not love, is what you want to live from. As long as you are loving, you cannot have judgment. I love that. I'm going to say that one again. As long as you're loving, you cannot have judgment. When you are truly loving, you have gratitude for what the person does. You don't judge the other person or yourself. Don't try to live from love. Live from loving. When you function from loving, caring, and receiving, you don't function from judgment. In order to stop loving, you have to do judgment. Otherwise, you're just loving. Gary, what stupidity are you using to create the oppositional forces of love and judgment, caring and hate, and stupidity and receiving are you choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. This process is a little more intense than I thought it would be, so let's run it again. What stupidity are you using to create the oppositional forces of love and judgment, caring and hate, and stupidity and receiving are you choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Salon participant, I've not had a relationship without judgment. Gary, well, most of you haven't, because relationship without judgment is not, quote unquote, normal in this reality. Why do we consider relationship with judgment more real than relationship without judgment? You know why? Because relationship with judgment is more intense. We define that intensity as love, and we look for that rather than the joy and the possibility that loving is. True loving is to embrace the joy and the possibility, not the judgment. Salon participant, I have a partner who doesn't judge me according to what this reality sees relationships should be, but I tend to create judgments with him to make our relationship fit into what this reality sees a relationship should look like. Gary, good call. That's what every one of us does in order to create the sense of love in this reality, according to this reality. It's about the intensity of judgment, not about the awareness of possibility we create with our partners. Everything that all of you have done to create that in you and your partner, will you destroy and uncreate that? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Love is a conclusion. Loving is an action. You have to stop trying to function from love and instead function from loving. When you're with somebody, look at what would be a loving act today, an action of loving today, asking, how can I express my love today, is a loving action. Recognize that loving is an active particle in the world, and that love as a judgment is by necessity a completed particle in the world. If you're in the act of loving, you cannot be in the act of judging. If you love, you're operating from the idea that you have completed everything and you think, well, that's enough. That's all I have to do. I see people do this a lot. They say, I love this person. And then they stop creating the relationship any further than that. They stop being in the action of loving. They have loved, and therefore it's complete, and they don't have to do anything else. When you do completion, quote unquote, I love him, then it's a done deal. And no creation happens from that point forward. All you can have is love/hate. You can't have total joy and possibility. When you say, I love this person, quote unquote, what do you mean anyway? One of the greatest difficulties is that love has 8 trillion godzillion definitions. So all the definitions you have about love that have nothing to do with loving, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Salon participant. Often, when I talk to people about relationships, they describe a whole string of what's not working. And I ask, what's the value of this? Why are you holding on to this? And they say, but I love him. And I ask, well, what does that mean? I don't understand. Can you explain this? Gary, most people decide that when they love, everything should turn out right. But the idea that you love and it turns out right is a judgment. It's not an awareness. What awareness are you missing to create the judgment you are stressing? Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. You have to start creating from the pragmatic point of view and ask, what would I like to create? Do you ever look at that when you're in a relationship? I never did. I looked at, oh, I want to make her happy. I want her to know how much I love her, which means I lack of her knowing how much I love her. All I was doing was feeding the lack. So how many of you have spent your life trying to feed the lack of relationships instead of the possibilities of relationships? Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Salon participant. It always seems to me that when people say, oh, I love this person, what they really mean is, I need something and I'm expecting to get it from the person that I've decided I require. But when you talk about loving, it has the energy of an outpouring of gratitude rather than a give me quality. Salon participant. What you just said about love and loving was brilliant. Thanks. Gary, I want to thank all of you for your questions. Because with them, you've opened the door to a level of possibilities that have never existed for the women on this planet. Please know this. You are opening a door to greater possibilities for men and women than have ever existed on this planet Earth, by the very fact that you're willing to look at these things and change the stupidity that you're functioning from. Sorry, I'm getting teary-eyed. This is what I wanted to create with these calls, and this is what's happening. I'm grateful for each of you for being here. Salon participant, thank you. Gary, what stupidity are you using to create the oppositional forces of love and judgment, caring and hate? Stupidity and receiving are you choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. What is this? Salon participant. I've been looking at relationships between men and women. It takes two to tango, right? So when there are judgments, does it matter whether it's the men or the women judging? What does it look like if I have a relationship with somebody and it brings up judgments? What is my role there? Gary, most people don't get that they have to create from what is and not from what they think ought to be. You have to function from what is this, not what judgment do I have of this. It's not about the judgments. It's about loving what expands your life. It's about pragmatic relationships. It's a whole different universe. Pragmatic relationship is what's going to work here? How do I make this work for me, for the other person, and for everyone involved? If you don't function from pragmatic relationship, you function from judgeable relationships, which are about I love him or I don't love him. And it's like pulling the petals off a flower and saying, he loves me not. So you pull off the petals to come to a conclusion about whether he loves you or doesn't love you. What if you had a relationship that was loving, caring, and receiving, and not unaware, not hating, and not judging? But that's not how this reality works. Without that judgment, hate, and stupidity, you couldn't have fallen in love at all. You couldn't have the trauma and drama and all the things considered the most valuable products of this reality. You have to create a pragmatic relationship that works for you. Instead of doing that, you try to create relationships based on somebody else's point of view. Everything that you've done to create your relationships based on other people's points of view and not your own, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. I think the helicopter got into that too. You've been doing a lot of that. Salon participant. Are you at a point in reality where you are not judging anymore? Or are you instantly aware when you judge and do pock and pod it? Gary, mostly I'm instantly aware of when I start judging. A while back, I looked at having a relationship with somebody who was perfect for me. And I asked a question, would the relationship work for her? And I said, wow, no, because what would work for me and what would work for her were two different things. That's looking at a pragmatic relationship. Is this really going to work for the other person? It's not, is this going to work for me? Most of us do this. We look at a relationship in terms of, can I make it work for the other person? Or how can I make it work for me? As the 2 points of view. What if there's a third point of view that you could have? Everything that doesn't allow you to perceive, know, be, and receive the extremely pragmatic points of view that would allow everything to work for everyone, will you destroy and uncreate at all times a godzillion? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Salon participant. Well, in getting to that third point of view, I guess both parties could come up with questions to see what would work for them. Gary, only one person has to come up with questions. And that person has to be willing to look at, what is this? What can I do with it? Can I change it? And how can I change it? Say you decide to get into a relationship with somebody. They have a family. Is the family involved in a relationship? Salon participant, yes. Gary, does the family have a point of view about the relationships or about relationships? Oh, yeah. Do they project and expect certain things out of you because of your relationships? Salon participant, yeah. Gary, so do you actually have true choice, or do you have to alter your choices based on how you have to include other people in your relationship? Salon participant, the latter. Creating future. Gary, you have to be willing to recognize here how every choice is going to create the future you would like to create. Most of us never look at creating future because this is not the reality for most everybody on this planet. I started reading a book about risk called Against the Gods. It talks about the idea that risk is created by certain things and that there are probabilities that will create the future rather than possibilities that will create the future. A probability is the idea that you can determine mathematically what will most likely occur in agreement with everybody else's point of view. It's based on your judgment and everybody else's judgments rather than the idea that choice and possibility can actually alter reality. You have to recognize that choice literally creates possibilities. What if you're capable of altering reality and you're not choosing that? How many places have you chosen to avoid creation based on choice of possibility in favor of the probability of what everybody else will accept, align, and agree with? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. If you are choosing from possibilities, you can see that there could be a different creation that has not yet existed. I'm asking you, ladies, to be willing to create beyond the limitations of this reality. What is the possibility here of a different future is a point of view that does not occur in relationships, sex, and copulation, or in your own life. Here's a brand new process that I've never used on anybody. You're the first. What stupidity are you using to create the probabilities of actualizing future are you choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys, and beyonds. Your point of view creates your reality. We make choices without realizing how these choices create our future in every way. Every choice we make creates. I've been talking for a long time about how choice is creation. Choice is not a rightness or a wrongness, but a creation. It is the creating element of all things on planet Earth. Every choice you make creates something. Your point of view creates your reality. Your reality does not create your point of view. Have you ever chosen to have a relationship with somebody who's not good for you? Salon participant, when you talk about all this, what's coming up for me is the energy of space that I haven't been willing to choose. I don't choose from space because I don't have a reason, justification, or clue of what it's going to create. Gary, yes, because you're trying to look for the probability. Salon participant, yes. Wow, thank you. Gary, you, as a woman, are no less than a man. You are just different than a man. Not in a bad way, not in a good way, just different. You have equal choices. In fact, you have more choice than men do. Because a man, in order to prove he is a man, must prove he's not feminine and not gay. I know that doesn't make sense to you, but it's true. I had a lady come to my office the other day and she asked, Dana's gay, isn't he? And I said, no, actually, he's not. What makes you think he's gay? And she said, when I cut my finger, he put a Band-Aid on it and he was so kind and loving about it. He couldn't possibly be straight because a straight man would just slam the Band-Aid on you and say, how's that? Because a man is caring, he's gay? No, that's a total judgment and a decision, and unfortunately, it is not true. Trust me, there would be a lot of men who would be glad for Dane to be gay, but he's not. You, as women, if you're not totally kind and caring, are not considered feminine. And that's just insanity. Make every choice as a source of possibility. Salon participant. Are you saying that as a woman, acknowledging that I have more choice is acknowledging that every choice is a creation that will open up things for me? Gary, yes. Every choice will open the doors to possibility. Every choice creates multiple possibilities. Every possibility and choice creates a set of possibilities. And every time you choose, you create a set of possibilities. Just by imagining the idea, you create choice and 10 possibilities open up. And then you choose again and another 10 possibilities open up. And in the first one, choice creates a set of possibilities. And in the second, another set of possibilities tie together two of the choices you created as possibilities. That's how you start creating the cobwebs of the future to actualize, to come into reality, the existence of a different possibility. When you start to perceive those places where multiplicities have connected to one another, every time you create a choice, you see what contributes to creating a line of different possibility to a different future that perhaps never existed for you or anybody you know. Salon participant, thank you. That was brilliant. When you said that, when you make a choice, 10 possibilities show up and you choose one of those 10 possibilities and they tie together. There is such a strong energy on that. Whatever that is, I'm not willing to know what it and the web of it all is. I like to pretend that I don't know what I really know. The only one, right? Gary, let's try this. What stupidity are you using to create the lack of awareness of the web of possibilities that the choice you choose creates? Are you choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. Oh, dang, just because I can, I'm going to read that one again. What stupidity are you using to create the lack of awareness of the web of possibilities that the choice you choose creates? Are you choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. Every choice creates a multiple set of possibilities. We keep trying to come to a conclusion, thinking that's going to solidify the choice we make and create a quote-unquote correct point of view to get the result that we desire. All of you have had the experience of getting into a relationship with somebody, taking a fixed point of view and having it all fall apart. Well, why do you think it fell apart? It fell apart because you weren't willing to create and generate beyond the choice of, I love him, quote unquote. When you find a so-called soulmate or see someone as your significant other, you create from a strange point of view that has nothing to do with you, and you're no longer able to create what's possible. That's the place where you make your choice the end of creation. Don't make any choice as the end of creation. Make every choice as a source of possibility. What stupidity are you using to create the twin flame, soulmate, significant other, mythical creature, prince and princess, perfect person for you and perfect complement for you? Are you choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. What stupidity are you using to create the blood, sweat, and tears of relationship? Are you choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. A lot of you have made yourself wrong for not choosing to have a relationship. What if not choosing a relationship was the smartest thing you ever chose for you? What stupidity are you using to create the wrongness of not choosing a relationship? Are you choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. You have the point of view that you're wrong for not having a relationship because your mother or your sisters or your girlfriends are always encouraging you to have a bad relationship. You don't really want a relationship, which is why you keep choosing bad relationships. If you truly wanted a relationship, you'd create a good one. If you don't really want a relationship, there's nothing wrong with it. You're not wrong to not want a relationship. Relationship is a concept. It's not a reality. You don't need somebody to complete you. You are complete as a soul unto yourself. You don't need a relationship, family, children, a group, or any of that kind of stuff to complete you. You are a complete entity, a being unto thyself. To thine own self be true. Everything that you've done to make you not true, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. So what is relationship? Salon participant, can I ask you what relationship means to you? Gary, relationship is a pragmatic living together that expands both of your realities and both of your agendas. Relationship is someplace where you can live comfortably together without judgment. It's a place where you can live together in the possibilities, not in the necessities of you're not cleaning your share or you're not doing your share, you're not sharing. Sharing is a concept that creates a space where you judge someone, not where you live with someone. The moment you go into judgment, you as a being cease to exist. A being and judgment cannot exist in the same universe. A being is an element of gratitude. A judgment is an element of destruction. You cannot have gratitude and destruction in the same universe. One is creation, the other is destruction. I'm going to read that one again. That was brilliant. The moment you go to judgment, you as a being cease to exist. A being and judgment cannot exist in the same universe. A being is an element of gratitude. A judgment is an element of destruction. You cannot have gratitude and destruction in the same universe. One is creation, the other is destruction. Now, that's not something they teach us growing up, is it? Salon participant. It's almost like I want to get rid of the word relationship. I want to call it something else. I don't want to have, quote unquote, relationship. Gary, I don't want to have relationship means you don't lack of relationship, which means you have a whole lot of relationships and most of them are bad. Salon participant, yes. Gary, so why are they bad? Salon participant, I'm not showing up. I'm not being everything I am in any of my relationships. Gary, why are you not being everything you are in your relationships? Salon participant, I'm not received by other people or they can't get me. Gary, why do you expect them to get you? What would it be like if you were willing to have everything that's possible for you without a need to have anybody else? Salon participant, that would be awesome. Gary, yeah, that would create something entirely different. You have to be willing to look at a different possibility. What stupidity are you using to create a lack of totally pragmatic relational reality are you choosing? Everything that is, times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. I want all of you to put this on a loop and listen to it for at least 30 days. If you do this, it will clear that area and you will erase your stuck points and go on to other possibilities with greater ease. Put this clearing on your computer and play it low over and over and over again while you're sleeping. It's kind of like subliminal programming, except it's subliminal deprogramming. What stupidity am I using to create a lack of a totally pragmatic relational reality? Am I choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion, I destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. So what stupidity are you using to create the twin flame, soulmate, significant other, mythical creature, prince and princess, perfect person for you and perfect complement for you are you choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. Copulation by choice. I'm going to say something that may be totally offensive to many of you. Most of you are looking for a relationship, and what your body actually wants is copious amounts of copulation. Your body would rather have copulation than relationship, but you have determined that being female requires relationship, not copulation. Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Salon participant, why do I resist copulation so much? Gary, have you resisted it? Salon participant, yeah. Gary, because if you were willing to have lots of copulation, you wouldn't be considered a female. In this reality, the desire of copulation is a masculine trait, not a feminine trait. Everything you determined and decided about that will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Salon participant, I have a question about copulation. All my life, I've had the desire of copulation until I came to access consciousness and realized it was not a necessity, but a choice, and the desire kind of fizzled. I lost interest. Gary, copulation by choice rather than the necessity of copulation. The more you begin to realize that people use judgment to create copulation, the more there is a sense that somehow you're missing something if you go directly to copulation and you do it without judgment. Salon participant, I don't understand. Gary, well, let's say you have a man in your life who you'd like to copulate with and you're not doing judgment. If he is doing judgment to create his hard-on, then he cannot get a hard-on because you're not doing enough judgment of the wrongness of what you're doing to get him sexually excited. So you have a choice. How much judgment do you have to put into his universe to make him get hard? Or how much control do you have to use to get him so excited that he can't stop himself? Everything that brought up or let down will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Judgment is a system of control. Do you all get that? You have a choice. You can let the person do judgment, you can create judgment for him, or you can create through control that his judgment is not positioned to overcome your demand of his body. Not him, his body. Salon participant, what kind of control are you talking about here? Gary, you have to be willing to look at him and ask, what's it going to take to control this guy so he is so freaking horny that he has no choice but to deliver anything I want, anytime I want it? There's a particular kind of energy you have to be, and it requires the man to deliver whether he desires it or not. You have to override his system of desire rather than buying in to what will make him desire for you. That's the level of control women have been told they're not allowed to have and that they shouldn't have. Everywhere you've bought that you should not have that control, or you should not do that control, or you cannot have that control, and you have no idea what control is even. And if you did have that control, you probably wouldn't choose it because it would be so not feminine. Will you destroy and uncreate all that? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. Salon participant, is that what has been judged as domination? And that's why we are excluded? Gary, yes. You've tried not to be the dominant species because you've been told that men are the dominant species. Is that really true? And is there really a dominant species? Or is there a moment in which each of us needs to be dominant according to our needs, our desires, and our requires? Everything that doesn't allow you to choose that, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Total sexualness. For example, those women out there who think it would be fun to do some gay play, please be willing to do that if that's what your body says is going to work for you. You cannot have the point of view of there is gay and there is straight. That's a judgment. And if you have a judgment, you can't be loving, which means you can't have caring. You have to get that there is a whole world available to you as a creature of no judgment. Total sexualness is an omnisexual reality, which would be, quote unquote, I have no real sexuality, I have no point of view, I could do anything. You could also say it's pansexuality, which means you do all of it. Androgyny is not omnisexual. It's not omnisexuality, as that would be a judgment. It's about being the sexual energy that you and your body are, which is about being. It's a choice, and it's what you choose to receive. Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Salon participant. What would it take to stop harshly judging women who let their spouses or partners make decisions and who always go with what men think is right over their own awareness or desires? What contribution can I be to changing this? And an infinite being would choose that for what reason? Do you think that's a judgment? Gary, no, darling, it's not a judgment. It's an awareness. I love you and you are aware. It is insane to divorce you to make your partner happy. Is that making you happy? If it is, become more of it. If it isn't, then do something different. Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Your body has a point of view. Salon participant. Why, as an infinite being, do I have a dual personality, my spirit me and my physical me? Gary, it's not a dual personality. It's just that your body has one point of view and you have another. You're not willing to see that your body has a different point of view than you. Your body is inside of you. You are not inside of your body. So it's not a dual personality. It's that your body experiences life from a physiological perspective, and you are experiencing it from a psychological perspective. Now, here are a couple of processes for all of you to put on a loop. What stupidity am I using to create the lack of physiological reality am I choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. What physical actualization of a totally different physiological reality am I now capable of creating, generating, and instituting? Everything that doesn't allow for that to show up times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Salon participant. I would love to regenerate my reproductive system for body health and more pleasurable sex. What question can I ask? Gary, why are you choosing for body health and more pleasurable sex? Why aren't you going for something that would create a life that is more joyful and more fun for you? That's a question. What can I be, do, have, create, or generate today that will create more fun, ease, sex, and pleasure in my life for all eternity? Everything that doesn't allow that to show up times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Sex and receiving. Salon participant. Is it because we divorce part of ourselves that we lose interest in sex? Gary, it's because you lose part of receiving. Sex can only occur when you are totally receiving. What part of receiving are you diminishing with such intensity that you are eliminating the sex and joy of copulation you could be choosing? Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Is it a choice I'm making, not wanting or desiring to have sex? Gary, yes, it is a choice, and it's usually based on the place where you decided or concluded that if you have sex with a particular person, you have to have a monogamous relationship. Monogamous means one. If you're in a if you're in a monogamous relationship, there's only one relationship in which got my brain fried. Monogamous means one. If you are in a monogamous relationship, there's only one relationship. One in the relationship, which is the other person and not you. You want to create a polygamous relationship in which you are included in the relationship. Abusive relationships. Salon participant. Please talk about how to recognize when a relationship becomes abusive, especially when it gets so subtle that you may not recognize it as abuse. Gary, that's pretty much the way it is with all abusive relationships. When you come to the conclusion that you love somebody, you never ask questions as to what they're doing. When somebody criticizes you, that is not loving. It's a conclusion, not a possibility. You have to go to awareness and be willing to ask questions. I was in a relationship where I was judged every day. I actually tried to go to a hypnotist so I would stop withdrawing every time this person touched me. Every time she would reach out for me, I would withdraw. And I didn't know why I was withdrawing. It was only after the relationship ended that I realized it wasn't me withdrawing. It was my body withdrawing from the abuse. You have to be really clear about where you've been abused in a relationship. When you think you no longer wish to have sex, or you use the other person's judgments to create sexual desire, you're in an abusive relationship. When it is more fun to be with other people than it is to be with your spouse or your partner, you're in an abusive relationship. You're getting into an abusive relationship when you think the other person's smarter than you. No one is smarter or more aware than you. Ever, 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 ever. Please get this. Salon participant. Sometimes when I touch my partner or he touches me, I feel a painful, intense sensation in my hands, arms, and body. Gary, is it pain or is it a level of intensity or awareness that you don't want to have? Are you aware of the pain in his body? Do you want to have that awareness? You're trying to avoid the awareness, which is why you call it pain. Whenever you label something as pain or suffering, as a problem or as a trauma and drama, you're trying to avoid it. Instead of avoiding it, you need to ask, what is this? What can I do with this? Can I change it? How can I change it? That's the place you have to go. What if you knew the only way you could change it was to have sex with him? Would you be willing to do that? Salon participant, would that be caring for me? Gary, what does this have to do with the kingdom of me and the kingdom of we? Salon participant, well, what is the difference between the kingdom of me and the kingdom of we? Gary, the kingdom of me and the kingdom of we are totally different universes. The kingdom of me is where you try to come to conclusion. The kingdom of we is the awareness of how each and everything will interact with another thing. Salon participant, is that what I'm doing when I try to be responsible with everything? Gary, you're doing kingdom of me. You're saying you're the only person who exists in the universe and the earth revolves around you. How's that working for you? You can choose something else. Salon participant, this is about sexual healing. Can we talk more about this, the kingdom of we with sex? Gary, a lot of you don't want to know this, but you're sexual healers. If you felt lighter when you heard me say that, you're a sexual healer. You will start to feel better if you acknowledge it. When you don't acknowledge that you're a sexual healer, you start to use that as a weapon against you to create pain. You have to acknowledge it. If you don't, instead of choosing a relationship with somebody who will make things better, you will always choose a man who needs sexual healing, and you exclude you in the computation of your reality. Salon participant, are you saying that if you acknowledge that you're a sexual healer, you won't choose somebody you have to heal? Gary, yes. Salon participant, well, how does that work? Gary, your judgment is that you shouldn't be a sexual healer. When you don't acknowledge you as a sexual healer, what you will find exciting are people who need sexual healing. You will tend to make the choice to have sex with somebody rather than looking at what else is possible. When you have a capacity for sexual healing and you don't acknowledge it, you always have to pick somebody who chooses you and takes from you, not somebody you choose to be with. When you acknowledge that you're a sexual healer, you can ask, does this person need sexual healing? Is this the only choice I have? Salon participant, well, say you acknowledge that you're a sexual healer and you meet somebody you would like to have sex with, and you ask, does this person require sexual healing? And if you get a yes, you ask, what else is possible? Is it possible to have copulation with that person without giving him the sexual healing he requires? Gary, no. The way you asked that question was the weasel clause you tried to put in it. The question you didn't ask is, do I really want to do this? Here's an example of how asking questions works in subtle ways. A lady called me and said, I can get you in to see Obama. And I said, no. She said, "Oh, it's only such and such amount of money." And I said, "No." She asked, "Why?" And I said, "I don't have the money to do that." And she said, "I will loan you the money if you want." And I said, "That's not the point." She asked, "If you met him, would that change the world?" I got a yes. And then I said, "Okay, I'll do it." After paying the money, I went to Austin, Texas with the idea of meeting President Obama. But our plane was delayed 3 hours and we couldn't make it in time to see him. I said to myself, this was the energy I was aware of in the first place, but I didn't acknowledge it. When I went to the questions, would meeting him change the world? Would my paying the money be okay? I didn't ask, will I actually be able to get there? It was actually a no from the beginning, but I didn't notice because I wasn't willing to ask the extra questions. That's the reason you have to ask the question, if I have sex with this person, will that actually heal him? You might need it, but it doesn't mean he's going to receive it. Do most people you have sex with actually receive you? Or do they take from you? They think you're going to heal them, so they're not contributing. You have to get that you have the ability to heal sexually, and that your need of healing others doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to receive it. Good sex versus expansive sex. It's not talking about expensive, expansive. Just clarifying. Salon participant. After sex, my husband bounces around and I just want to get back into bed. Gary, for him, sex is generative, and for you, it's a completion. You're more like a man. How much adrenaline are you using to create sexual orgasm? A lot, a little, or megatons? Salon participant. Well, megatons comes up, but that doesn't make sense. Gary, everything that is times a godzillion. Will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Well, it doesn't make sense because it's not about logical sense. Most people create orgasm by creating an adrenaline pump. Apparently, your husband is not creating an adrenaline pump to create the orgasm. He's expanding out and becoming more present with his life. Sex and copulation is the gift that you can be if you're willing to be it. But you're trying to fulfill his needs or do something in particular. And the easiest way to reach orgasm is by creating an adrenaline pump which exhausts your body. That's what most people have learned is good sex. Adrenaline is the greatest source for creating contraction. It's the way you supposedly get into fight or flight mode. If you contract, you withdraw into yourself so you're ready to fight everyone else. And if you use contraction to create orgasm, you're not with your partner. You separate from your partner. You're not expanding his sex and your sex. You're contracting from the sex in order to create the completion of it, as though sex should be a completion. When you do that, at the end of the sex, rather than feeling really energized and ready to go to work, you get exhausted and fall asleep. Most men have learned that that's what they're supposed to do by watching porn flicks. They're taught that if they contract, they create the orgasm and then they fall asleep, which is infuriating to most women. Whereas if you function from a place of expanding out to achieve orgasm, the end result is that you're ready to go to work, you're ready to get up and play. Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Salon participant. Could you talk more about the expansive element of sex, Gary? Gary, the expansive element of sex is about recognizing that the purpose of sex is not creating the adrenaline that causes the orgasm, but creating the orgasmic quality of life and living, which is about the joy and the choice of possibilities. You not only have to get you off, but you also have to get your partner off as well. What if you were looking to get your partner to a place of greater possibility through sex? Sex and copulation should be about creating greater possibilities, not creating completion. What you get with the adrenaline pump has been sold by the French as the best that you can get. Salon participant. When I do confrontation or judgment, it seems like I'm not acknowledging that I'm a healer. Gary, if you're not acknowledging total awareness, you will try to use confrontation to create awareness in others. You will try to use the confrontation to create awareness in others. What if you were totally aware and in question instead of coming to conclusion or judgment. You're trying to enforce receiving when you come to that place of confrontation. A lot of people do that in sex and copulation as well as in relationships. They tend to enforce awareness through confrontation, and they try to use force to get the other person to receive. You have to ask the question, what can this person receive that I have to offer? You have to be willing for your consciousness to permeate reality. In Dane's book, Being You, Changing the World, he talks about how when you're totally being you, you permeate the space and change everybody around you. What if you did that in sex and copulation, relationships, and everything else in life? What if you were permeating and being all of you into a different reality? Salon participant, I've had moments of that permeation and they were delicious. Gary, can I ask you a question? Why do you not live the delicious life all the time? Salon participant, judgments came up. Judgments keep me from living the delicious life. Gary, judgments are just judgments. Choose deliciousness, whether anyone else chooses it or not. Choose the deliciousness of living instead of other people's judgments, because the deliciousness of living and the permeability of consciousness go beyond judgments and create possibilities. It's a choice one has to make, not a place one has to live. When you function from judgment, you go to the place where one has to live, not to the choice of possibility. Everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pod, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Thank you, ladies. You are awesome. I would really like you to get how phenomenal you are, because you can change the world being that. Talk to you next week. Bye. Wow. That brought up some ananas and all sorts of interesting perspectives. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you shortly for installment number 3 in the book. Toodles.